Okay. All right. Well, welcome to Grue, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day first off and coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you about the film. I watched the film, and it's definitely a good Halloweeny vibe type film.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun Halloween vibe film.
But before I talk about that film, I wanted to talk because I was a big fan of your very first horror movie, Friend Request, and
Oh my
and,
gosh, friend request. Yeah. Oh,
and like I wanted to find out what you how your experience was because I I think this was like your first film and it was a horror film and I know you like horror too. So how was your experience like being on a horror film for your first film?
that was wild. Yeah, because I had never been on set ever. Like I come from theater and I was going to drama school in London, and it all just sort of happened, and I had literally zero like TV or film experience, and just kind of got thrown in there and figured it out. But yeah, it was awesome. I'm like hesitating because I'm like, oh, can I talk about past projects because of obviously like the
Oh
strike
yeah.
and stuff, but I'll talk about my just like experience just like coming out of drama school and then just kind of yeah immediately going onto a film set, which was like it feels almost like a fever dream now that I think about it. And we were in South Africa, which was
Oh
nuts.
really?
Yeah, that's where we shot it. I don't know. Anyways, whatever. Um, yeah, so it was, I mean, South Africa is so beautiful. I haven't been back yet, but I've always dreamed of going back. Um, yeah.
I mean it looks really nice like from everything I heard about it and saw about it and it definitely looks like a trip you have to go at least once.
Oh my gosh, I highly recommend going to South Africa. We were in Cape Town, and yeah, it all kind of feels like a dream. It was so long ago, but um yeah, I just remember me feeling scared for most of it because it was all these new experiences that I had never experienced before as like a person and then also as an actor because I up until that point I had only done theater and a lot of classical theater. So yeah, it was great.
And so now you're part of a brand new horror film, and it's out in a perfect season, Halloween season. So how did you get to be be part of this amazing horror film?
Yeah, definitely can talk about Shaky Shivers. How did I so I had worked with a couple of the producers that were part of the film at the very beginning stages. It took a minute to get this film going and actually start shooting it because I met with Sung and met Sung before the pandemic.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so I had worked with these producers, and one of which Jamie Burke, who I still love and work with. I love her so much. Um, and I had done a project with them before, so they called me in to meet Sung for Shaky. And yeah, it was just kind of like, oh, this is great. This works. Sung and I really get along, and it just felt right. And then the pandemic happened, and then who knows? Like we were like, I have no idea, what's going to happen in life, let alone a small indie like horror movie.
I
So,
mean, living through that was like a horror movie.
exactly. So, yeah. Um, so then when it was, I think it was like, gosh, maybe like June 2021 or somewhere around there, I got a call from my manager and he was like, remember that movie? Shaky Shivers? And I was like, yeah. He was like, they want to do it. They're ready to go. And I was like, okay, great. And it, and then it just all happened very fast. And a few months later, we were on set shooting the movie. And it was so fun. I think it is a horror movie, but a horror comedy, but
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
it's really more comedy than anything else. Like I think, and Sung says this all the time, like we just all wanted to laugh for obvious reasons. And so it all came around like amazing timing, shooting that movie because we all had like, I know like you do interviews and you have to say this kind of stuff, but very genuinely, we had a lot of fun making that movie. Like that's very genuine.
I mean, it does seem like you all had like so much fun with with the movie, making the film, and like that's what I was gonna ask too. Like, did you have fun playing your character and being on set with everybody?
Oh God, I had so much fun. I mean, we played so much. We would, get into a scene, get it, and the writing was great. I love our writers so much. And the like comedy was already so grounded within the script. Just like reading it, I would laugh out loud. And so because they'd already created such a strong like world and strong characters for us, we then just got to play and improv and surprise each other, and Sung and everyone else on set was really open to that. They allowed that to happen, and I think because of that, what you see on screen feels so free and so,
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
and because it was, Vivi and I were literally just like two kids like playing every day. It honestly felt like, yeah, I had a blast. Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. And what I loved about the movie, like I mean, I know it's funny and also it's hard too. And what I love about it is like it's definitely an old school vibe, like an old school horror vibe, and there's spells and creatures and monsters and just all kind of fun. And how would you describe the film? Do you think it definitely is like an 80s like horror vibe?
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a love letter to all of those movies that we
Yeah.
love. I love. I mean, I grew up watching those movies. My brother and sister are a bit older than me, and so I was like raised on like Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger and all of those amazing like, and even like more like indie horror movies, and yeah. Um so that was like the thing that drew me most to this movie when it came my way. It felt so nostalgic and also
Mhm.
like very aware of itself. I love
Yeah.
those types of movie. The comedy's super aware of itself, and the meaning behind, why this script was written is one of our writers, well, both of our writers are big horror fans.
Oh, sweet.
And one of our writers has a little girl, and he wanted a movie that he could share in his love of monsters and like the practical like prosthetics and effects. He wanted a movie that he could share with her and they could bond over. And so
Oh,
that literally was the birthplace of Shaky Shivers. And
oh
both our
wow.
writers did a documentary of our practical effects artist, Gabe Bartalis, who, God, like in my opinion, like kind of is the star of the movie because he's such a legend. He's such a legend, and his work is so incredible. Um, that being able to work with him on this movie was some of my favorite moments as well, because I've never done any sort of like prosthetic work to that extent, and you really do feel like a living like art piece as he like creates this monster on you. It was a blast. So yeah,
Um,
so it was all in the spirit of like love for this type of movie and these types of monsters, and also like wanting to be able to share it and pass it down. And Yeah. So
Oh yeah, that must have been so much fun. I mean, you play human and you play a wolf too, and like just going from one to another, like so, like how was that transformation, like transforming into the wolf, and how long did it take for makeup and prosthetics?
it took a while. I mean, I think so. What we would do is because it's a werewolf transformation, so we started just me and kind of reacting internally of like what would happen if your body, like your bones are literally breaking and reforming themselves. So it was like we talked a lot about how painful that would be. And so we started with just me kind of internally like experiencing that, and then I would go back into the makeup room with Gabe, and I think we like started with my like arm, and there's like a
Oh,
moment where like my hand comes up, so I think we started with, I think, anyway, we started with, we did it in bits and pieces, so we would like do my arm and then we would shoot that part of that sequence, and then when we got all the shots we needed for that, I would go back and then he would do like bits of my face and we go back and shoot that. So that's kind of how that sequence worked. And then it built up to, because she doesn't in that sequence actually fully transform yet. Um,
nice.
so spoiler alert, but and then we had a chest piece that then we did like a like the reveal of like my chest, like this
Yeah.
chest piece that they made, and there was a back piece as well that we
Wow.
got like inserts on, so we did it in pieces. And so yeah, I mean, I think it took like half a day for sure, just because it was like we'd shoot a bit and then I'd have to go back into makeup, get the rest of it done, and then come back and shoot that bit. So yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a very long day, but I mean, it's also fun to play something like a wolf, werewolf, like going back and watching like the old school horror movies with like the werewolves, like Silver Bullet and The Howling and Wolfman, and now you're actually one of them.
No, I feel so honored to be a part of the werewolf canon. Yeah, because American Werewolf in London is like one of my favorite movies.
Oh my
And
God,
I,
yeah,
it's so good. And
yeah.
I know that, you know, that was a big inspiration for our movie as well. Like, I think everyone on set loves that movie. Yeah, and being like a female werewolf as well, because I went and watched, I think I've seen every werewolf transformation or like scene in film and television known to mankind. And to be quite honest, I just love that kind of stuff anyways. Like I listen to a podcast called Lore and like
Nice.
I,
Oh
I
my God.
surround
Okay.
myself with this sort of stuff anyways. So I was like, oh great. And and so when I was researching it though, I was like, oh, there's not a lot of like female werewolves. Like
Yeah,
what does that
exactly.
mean? Like why is it always a man? And so diving into what it meant to like be a female werewolf. And at the end of the day, we were shooting this like ridiculous horror comedy, but I went a bit deep with it. I was like, the cycles of the moon and how does that affect women? Probably like went way too deep and far with just like it's a horror comedy, like give me a break. But like it was fun, it was interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I did love like the movie definitely took like a little twist. Like I never saw this done in any horror movie, is putting silver nail polish on the bullets and
Yeah.
making a werewolf think it's a silver bullet.
Yeah. Yes. I think if you have any questions about like Lucy as a person or a character, that moment sums it up. Like you don't need to know anything else. You know who she is by that moment.
You're 100% right, yes. And so where was the film actually shot at? Because it definitely looks like a lot of woods where you were at.
Yeah, it was very woodsy. We shot it north, I guess, like I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Los Angeles in an area called Fraser Park,
Oh, okay.
which is such a weird little place. I mean, I loved it, but it's a lot of cabins and like it's very like cabin vibes. Like I think it was meant whenever it was kind of being developed to be another kind of like Big Bear or like place that you would go and like rent out a cabin and kind of have this experience. And for whatever reason, it didn't necessarily get to that point. But it's a great place to shoot a movie in. And the actual like main location that we shot most of the movie in was an actual Girl Scouts camp.
Oh,
That
really?
yeah, it's like a total real like Girl Scout camp. And because of the pandemic, I think beforehand, I think I heard this from Sung beforehand. They were like, "Oh yeah, we want to shoot there," and they were like, "Oh," because we shot this movie for literally no money, zero,
Okay,
zero,
okay.
and like I mean, next to nothing. Sung tells this story like if you didn't realize there is no ice cream in the ice cream shop, we didn't have money for ice cream. So, anyways, that's kind of Sung's story that he loves to tell. I love it too. Um, but um, but this Girl Scout camp, I think at the beginning they were like, yeah, you can shoot here, but it's this much money. And we were and the producers were like, oh no, we can't. But because it was the pandemic and they were shut down, they were like, yeah, come shoot in our Girl Scout camp, like whatever. So that kind of also worked out that it was like a real like Girl Scout camp location.
Wow, okay, nice.
Mhm.
And and like you were saying how like this film has a lot of throwbacks to old school horror, 80s horror, like the Halloweens and all that. And did you and Sung like did you talk about like all the throwbacks to older horror films?
Yeah, I mean, we would just like have fun and talk about all those movies that we loved and the writers and kind of everyone on set. There was a lot of talk of like old classic 80s horror
Oh
movies
yeah.
just like fun environments. But as far as like oh this particular scene is like this scene in whatever movie, there weren't too many conversations about that. I Unless there were like shot sequences that
Mhm.
Sung directly did that I don't know about. But it was just kind of an overall essence of like we love these movies. This is our take on it because the
Yeah.
monsters in the movie aren't like the monsters that you see in these like other zombie movies
Yeah,
or
exactly.
and that's all big a lot of credit to Gabe and Sung in creating kind of their own monsters of this world. And I know that Gabe wanted to feel like especially the zombies, like they grew out of the environment that they're in. And he literally went to Fraser Park where we were shooting and like picked up actual wood chips and actual like
Oh,
things, like foraged like things and
oh, no.
elements from that environment for these monsters. And so when Vivi turns into the zombie, like her
Yeah.
fingernails are the real wood chips like from the grounds of the camp.
Oh,
Yeah. And so I think they also wanted this movie to be its own as well. Of course,
mhm.
like it's written on the page and it's there and just the doing of it that it's inspired by all these movies that we all love so much. But it also wanted to have like an essence of its own, and I think that really shines in the monster making of it.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
And like how was it like working for Sung? Because I think this is Sung's first time directing a film.
Yeah, it's his directorial debut. You wouldn't know. I mean, he's so experienced as like an artist in general and obviously has an
Mhm.
extensive acting
Oh
career.
yeah.
So being on set and kind of understanding how it works was a no-brainer. Like it felt so like natural. Like I never felt like, oh, this is someone's first time directing
Yeah, yeah.
ever. And I think Sung, what I love about him as an artist and a person is he's never afraid to ask questions. So I know that throughout his process of, thinking about wanting to direct and all that stuff, he would just use the resources around him. He didn't have an ego about like, hey, a lot of people like walk onto set and like pretend they know everything, which is ridiculous. And he never did that. I've heard him speak about even before shooting this movie, and he used the people that he knew and was just like, hey, can you tell me like how you did this,
Yeah.
or like how you went about shooting this, or worked out this problem or whatever. So I think that speaks a lot to him. I think that's honestly, no matter what stage you're at in your career, like you're never going to know everything.
Yeah.
And
That.
he was great though. I felt extremely comfortable with Sung, and I think because of his acting background, like it completely, he's like an actor's director, I mean, how can he not be, because he's walked in our shoes and knows exactly probably what we're feeling at every moment because he's done it himself. So there's always that. I love working with directors like that
Oh,
really understand actors as well. Yeah.
nice. And
Shocking, but yeah.
is there a certain scene? I mean, of course, without giving too much away with spoilers, if anyone hasn't seen it yet. But is there a certain scene you had the most fun shooting?
The scene that always comes to mind is the very first scene in the car with
Yeah.
with Lucy and Karen. I love that scene. That's the scene that Vivi and I did when she was doing a chemistry read with me. And it's such a potent scene. It sets up these characters immediately, and it's just fun. Um, and the stakes are high for obvious reasons when you watch the movie.
Mhm.
And I just loved shooting that scene. I loved shooting that scene. We played a lot in that scene. So probably the first scene in the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you love most about Lucy? Like, what did you love most about playing her?
One of the things that I latched onto from the beginning is she desperately wants to be the hero of her own life or the hero of her own story. And she's so bold and wild. And um, I just really love that she has this like hero, like aspirational quality about her, but her circumstances, are probably the opposite. I always like to think of Lucy as like a little, like the movie in itself, and this is probably just my own little personal thing, but I was like, this is the origin story of Lucy becoming like the next, I don't know, like fighting off monster superhero.
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
I just
yeah.
love that quality about her. She's fun. She kind of doesn't have a filter. And I really loved playing a character like that because I think for me myself, like I'm always like, oh, I'm always like a people pleaser and like, to definitely a fault, and like being like, what should I say for this person to like me? And
Mhm,
Lucy doesn't have
mhm.
those types of qualities. She just is who she is and says what she says. And that is, I love that about her. I
Oh
wish
my
I could
god,
be
yeah,
more like
definitely. Was there any funny or cool stories from the set from filming it?
that. Oh, yeah, so many. One in particular was actually before we started shooting. So um Vivi and I arrived in Fraser Park at our like cabin in the middle of nowhere, by the way. It's so pitch dark. There's like bear warning signs everywhere. You're like,
Oh
oh God,
my god.
okay. Yeah. And so we get there, and cute little cabin. We were like, oh wow, but there was no reception at all. Fine. And they're like, we'll just pop onto the Wi-Fi, but there was no Wi-Fi. And I was
Oh
like,
my god.
if this was a retreat for me to like really disconnect and like have that moment to myself, fine, but that's not what this is. We were like, oh, we have a job to do. Like, what if somebody has to get a hold of us for our like call times to be on set or whatever? Like, oh no, what are
Yeah.
we gonna do? So we were like, well, let's figure this out. Let's start driving and in the pitch dark, windy roads, like we don't know where we're at. Let's just start driving until one of us gets cell reception. So that's what we did. And we just started driving down these like wooded back roads of whoever, we didn't know where we were at this point. And finally, I think he was like, "Oh, I have a couple of bars. I have a couple of bars." So we pull off until this like I don't even know what it was. It was like a dirt pile that you could like pull off into. And we like called and like figured it out. But as we were doing it, like we got scared. And then all of a sudden, this like these car lights turn on that we didn't know were there. And this man kind of like pops out, like out of the shadows and
Oh my,
starts like walking towards us. But I was like, is he walking towards us or is he like, what is happening? And it was totally a scene from the movie. It felt like we were doing the movie before the movie. And I remember I
yeah.
was driving at the time and I like peeled out. Not really. I probably like did a 4-point turn the best that I could or whatever. But people were like, we gotta get out of here. And so that moment, I think, really solidified A, Vivi and I's friendship, and B,
Yeah.
like the tone for the rest of like the movie and what I went back, I was like, is this some weird like did Sung set this up or is like are we actually shooting like a Blair Witch Project-esque like movie and they're not telling us?
Right, exactly. Yes.
So it's no, like that it wasn't that, but those like thoughts flash in my head. So that was a fun moment.
It definitely sounds like it. Like you were in a horror movie before actually shooting it.
Yes. It really did happen. It was crazy. I still don't know who that guy is. I don't know.
So, so what would you do if you were face to face with a werewolf?
Oh my God. Run. I don't think I would fight. I would run. I would just run for my life.
Definitely.
I don't think I would fight. Or if I had my like keys on me, I'd like whip out my pepper spray and be like, that's my only form of defense. I don't have anything else. Never like punched anybody. Like, I don't know how to do any of that.
And we are in Halloween season, so are there any Halloween horror films that you like watching?
There's a thing in LA called Cinespia, which is like everybody they like put a big it's in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery and they they project like classic like movies on this big like screen that they have and like everyone in LA like brings a picnic and comes and like watches these
Nice.
iconic movies like together and it's I honestly think it's my favorite thing to do in LA. And so in a couple weeks they're playing The Ring and so I'm going to
Oh
watch.
my God, I love that movie. Yes.
I love that movie.
That's so good, isn't it? So it's so creepy.
It's so creepy. That was like the first movie I remember seeing in like middle school, maybe middle school or high school. And like a new movie that like a new horror movie that came out that I remember being like, this is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
But like just like the first scene of that movie, yeah, with the when the girl opens the closet and her face is all, oh my God, I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a good horror movie. This first scene is like scaring me.
Yes, it's so scary. And like I remember I think that scene I still anticipate because it still scares me. Like it's one of those scenes that like implement has like implanted into you this like fear forever of that scene. I get the same way with even just like you know what scene still scares me to this day because it scared me so bad as a little kid that I still am like is in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Fantastic movie. The large
It
Marge.
is.
The large Marge scene where her eyes like
Yes.
pop out.
Yes.
To this day,
Yes.
I'm always like, so yes, that scene in The Ring is the same thing for me. It still scares me to this day. Oof, love it.
Yeah, no, that's a very scary, like out of any horror movie I've seen, like that is really freaky. Like, yeah, hands down, hands down.
Yeah.
And what about Halloween this year? Are you dressing up? Are you doing any parties or anything?
Yeah, last year I've only done it once, but it kind of like started this like anticipated tradition of me throwing like a Halloween party. I love Halloween. I love Halloween.
Definitely. Same.
And I love,
That's my favorite holiday.
same. I'm not a Christmas person, but I'm definitely a Halloween person.
Definitely same, yes.
Yes. And so I love all these movies. And so last year I had a party that was dedicated to the movie Practical Magic, which
Yes.
I love Hocus Pocus dearly, 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 but Practical Magic is the best witch movie. It is so good. And
I
so
love that movie. It is
it's
so
so
good.
good. It's such a good movie. And so I decorated my whole apartment in the theme of that movie. And I had like, I had like little like parts of the movie, like little like scenes that I like set up with like decorations or whatever. And then the food where they have like pancakes and like they
Yes.
obviously have that famous margarita scene. So I'll do like food and drink from the movie. And it was so fun that people were like, you need to do another party like that. So this year, I think I'm gonna do Scream because I also
Oh,
love that movie. So I want to have a Halloween party in theme of the Scream franchise.
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's kind of all the party plans I have for this Halloween. Yeah.
Do
Everybody else
do you
just
know
has to
which
come dressed up as a character or like an element, or like I told one of my friends about um doing Scream and they were like, maybe I'll come dressed up as the phone. And I'm like, yes, see, this is of the spirit of what I want people to get creative with.
that's very smart, yeah. What ab what about you? Do you know who you're gonna be dressing up as for your own scream party?
I honestly think I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't dress up as Drew Barrymore.
There you go. There you go, yeah.
I know it's like just dressing up as like a character from the movie, but she's so amazing in that
I
first
know.
opening sequence, like incredible. So I kind of want to dress up as Drew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who would
She
you
was
dress up as?
maybe oh, that's a good question. I love just dressing up as like ghost face, like just putting on the ghost face thing.
Yes. Maybe I'll just require everyone to come dressed up as Ghostface, and then there's just like 20 to 30 ghost faces, and the game is to figure out who's who.
Yeah, there you go. It it's so funny because like you were saying, Drew Barrymore had like she was so good in that movie, and she has such an important scene because it's her death that sets everything off.
It's so important. Arguably the most important scene. It's honestly, I think it's one of the most iconic like horror movie scenes like
Oh,
ever. It's
definitely.
so good. And she's so good in it.
I
It's perfect.
know. I know.
I love that opening scene. Yeah, the rest of the, I mean, it's now like a franchise, you know. How many have they made now? Like five or something like that.
Yeah,
Four.
I think they're making like the sixth one or the fifth one. It's something. No, no, they're making the sixth one.
Is it six? Wow. But like, yeah, without that scene and that scene being so brilliantly made and acted by her and everyone involved, like it truly does set up the entire franchise. It wouldn't work. So,
Definitely.
so
And
good.
it 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 was like a shock too because when you first go to see the movie, a big name like Drew Barrymore, you expect her to be the final girl, but she
Yes.
gets killed as the first person.
I know, like the first 20 minutes of the movie, you're like, oh my gosh. So I love when movies do that because you're like, oh, no one is safe. If you're going to kill off Drew Barrymore in the first 20 minutes of this movie, we're totally screwed. Like, I know
I know.
nothing. I can't plan for anything to happen. And so I think I always think that's a brilliant thing to do in like filmmaking in any capacity is be really
Definitely.
bold and do something like that because then it sets your audience up to they have no clue. Because for me, I'm always like watching stuff like anticipating or like I don't know. It's kind of annoying and it's probably because it's what I do for a living, but I'm like I'm always like ahead of the script or like trying to get ahead of it to like for it's probably just me being silly, and I don't know why I don't let things surprise me, but when it's that, you're like, oh, there's no hope. Anything can happen.
Exactly. Yes. Did you wind up seeing the last Scream movie that was out? The one that Nev wasn't in?
Oh, I didn't see that one. I need to watch it. That's
It,
on my list for this Halloween season for sure.
it's actually really, really good. And I mean, I would have loved for Nev to be in it, but without her in it, it's still a good movie.
Great. Yeah. Also, what an iconic final girl. Oh my gosh. Wow.
I think her and Jamie Lee Curtis are like the
Yeah.
one.
Yes. Yeah. I think so. I'm trying to think if there's any other. They are kind of like the top tier. I mean, I love all the final girls, but yeah, amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like, what about songs? Like, do you have any songs you like most? Like, what kind of songs you have on your playlist?
Oh, like if I'm like when I make like creating a character, like do I have like character playlists or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yes, I do like to use music whenever I'm creating a character for whatever project. I think that's very influential. Yeah, it changes. And our for Shaky, Timo Chen, like longtime friend of Sung, and he did the music for Shaky, which you can all listen to now on Spotify. It's great.
It is.
He
It is.
I
I
loved
love
he's amazing.
scores of horror movies. Like the scores in horror movies are so good.
Yes, I love the yes, so scores in horror movies, my favorites. I love the score to that horror movie It Follows, I think is so
Yes.
fantastic. I'm a big fan of like synth. I'm not a musician in any way, so if I say a wrong instrument, I'm sorry, musicians. But that like I guess synthy sound or
Mhm.
something. I love the soundtrack to It Follows, and then one of my very favorite horror movie soundtracks is the original Suspiria.
Oh my God, yes.
My
Yes.
partner and I just watched that, the original one, because I had seen the one that they made a few years ago, which I also think is like amazing and also has an
Mhm.
amazing soundtrack.
It does. It does, yeah.
But the original is like really iconic, especially that the like the song that's played the most in the movie, the like title song in the original
Mhm.
Suspiria. That movie's wild.
That
Um,
this score is so creepy for that movie. Like it gives you the chills.
yes. I think it's like one of the best. I That might be my favorite, the original Suspiria, the like
Mhm.
1970s Suspiria.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's
Oh,
so good. Yeah.
yeah. Like, when you hear that music, you're like, oh my God.
So fits like I had never seen it. I'd like listened to the soundtrack and I was a fan of I did like the one that came out a few years ago. I also do love movies that are about dancers. Like I grew up as a dancer, so anything that
Oh,
has to
really?
do with like a ballet company or even like Black Swan or anything like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I love movies that are about dancers. They're such like interesting characters. Like I'm fascinated by that world. But yeah, in the way that they were the 1970s Suspiria is even shot and like the colors that they're using and like I was like, whoa, like I wanted to like screenshot a lot of those
right,
like
exactly. It's like a perfect horror film.
yeah, but the like bright like primary colors, it's like bright blue
Yes.
and bright green and it's so they don't it's so makes it so much more potent, this like story, and it's great. I love it. So
Same, yes.
yeah.
And if you were doing a karaoke song, what do you think you would sing?
Honestly, probably right now. I mean, I do like karaoke. I used to sing like Respect by Aretha
Oh
Franklin.
my
That's
God,
really
yeah.
funny. Um, my My partner and I really like to sing a duet of One Day More from Les Mis, which gets like very chaotic and weird, but everyone starts to join in and it's quite fun. Um, but yeah, if it's just me, yeah, I like Respect by Aretha Franklin. I think that's a good one. Yeah.
Okay, that's a very good choice. I love that.
What's your karaoke song?
Me, I don't have a really good voice, so I like when the people sing. So I'll
Uh-huh.
choose like the don't don't stop believing journey. So
Classic.
because as soon as I start the song, everyone starts singing it, and then I get my voice lower and lower and lower until they're all singing it, and
I
I'm
think
just like,
that's like I think that's the way to do karaoke. Like anytime you step up and you're like, this is my song that I'm choosing, it's like you're reigniting the like party.
"Mhm,
And so I think that
my God,
that's
yeah,
a good thing to do. Yeah.
definitely." And do you have a food that you love best? Like, is there a certain food you can't live without?
Probably pizza. I
Oh
think
my
that's
God, yeah.
like I think that's my go-to comfort food. Yeah, just pizza. Like if I that's always what I want. That's what I have for my birthday every year. Very like I'm very like creature of habit, like simple. I love trying new restaurants and I love food a lot, but
Yeah,
pizza, like good pizza. And I
I
like love it so much. Yeah.
it's so good. It's just so good.
Yeah, and I love a thin crust, but I think my like favorite type of pizza, this is controversial maybe. Well, it's pizza. How controversial can it be? Actually, probably very. People fight about pizza all the time. But I want either, I just want like a classic pepperoni usually. Like, I don't need a
Okay.
lot of stuff. But I like a glorified, like Domino's style pizza. Or
Yes.
like, I love a thin crust as well. And I love a New York style, but like, whatever that means to kind of like be glorified Domino's is like what I like. And a Detroit style. I've
Ooh, yeah, that's good too. Yes.
whoa. Where it gets like the crispy, like it's almost like the dough is like fried. It's
Hmm.
good. Yeah.
I love like the the pizzas, like the deep crust, like the pan pizza. I know that's like the worst kind to eat, but that's the one I like.
I like that kind too. I love that kind. I don't know. Honestly, if you put pizza in front of me, I'm gonna be happy. Like I'm not gonna be super picky and choosy about my pizza, like very genuinely. Even down to like frozen pizza. Happy.
Yeah.
Um, so but yeah, I'm with you. I like the deep dish. I like that like crunch that you get from
Right, exactly.
I
Yeah,
love that. And then it's almost like the cheese gets a little bit burnt on the crust as well or
definitely.
something. I love that.
Oh my God, it's so good. It is. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah. Yep. You and I are on the same page about that for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I remember going to like Pizza Hut does Pizza Hut still exist? I feel like I never see Pizza Hut
I
anywhere.
never see it around. Like I don't even know if it's still around.
Yeah, there was a Pizza Hut. I grew up in a really small town in Oregon, but we had a Pizza Hut for a while. I don't even know if we still do, but it was like that old school Pizza Hut with the like red awning,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
like lamps, not lamps. What am I trying to say? Like light fixtures, you know? Like I remember that so well. And then they would bring out the like pizza in the actual like cast iron skillet.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? I remember that being like the best thing ever as a kid.
Oh my God, it was so good. Like I used to love going there, getting that and the the breadsticks and everything. And oh
Yes.
my
The breadsticks, yeah. So
God. And like last thing I will ask you is where can fans follow you at?
oh, follow me. I have Instagram. What's my Instagram handle? Brooke, Brooke A Markham. So there's an A, it's Brooke A Markham, and that's my Instagram handle. That's really it. That's kind of the only social media I use is just Instagram, really.
Okay.
So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So, so no dancing and lip singing on the
I know.
TikTok at all.
No, I do love TikTok. I have one of those like burner accounts that like I've never posted anything in my life, but I do love watching TikToks. I do love it.
Yes.
And I love when people send me TikToks and funny stuff. And I love to cook and I actually get a lot of recipes from TikTok. It's a great place for like cooking inspiration as well. I love it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm a
Oh,
fan of TikTok, but only from a viewer's perspective.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've done like one TikTok dance in my life. And it was like very early days pandemic when we were all in lockdown. And
Hmm.
I remember I learned, I don't know, I learned one TikTok dance and I sent it to my friend Lindsay. I think I also posted it on, like, it was like the only TikTok I ever posted and then I deleted it. Yeah.
Well, well, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was so much fun chatting
Oh,
with you. I'm really happy I got a chance to meet you and chat.
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for inviting me on. I had such a good time.
Definitely, definitely. It was a lot of fun. I mean, anytime you want to come back on, you're more than welcome.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we'll do this again. This was great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, definitely have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Uh,